You're still searching for that breakthrough that always feels just out of reach. What is your true life path, and how do you finally find it? Welcome to Say It Anyway, the podcast where we help you unlock the breakthrough you've been waiting for so your true life path can finally come to life. Each week, we share powerful practical tools you can use right now to start transforming your life. You'll hear raw, honest conversations with people from all walks of life, people who found their way forward and are here to share mindsets, strategies, and wisdom that help them get there. I'm James Farino. I've helped people reconnect with their power for years. I'll guide you beyond surface level solutions into a deeper way of seeing the world, one rooted in connection, courage, and open-hearted dedication. This is your space to think differently, live boldly, and finally do the thing you were meant to do. Let's get started. This is part 2 of my interview with Dominic. If you haven't seen part 1, you should go back and check it out. We had a great time last time. We talked about some amazing things, talked about finding your true power through not really looking for it, through realizing you already had it, through realizing they're not broken. Here comes part 2. Check it out. Yes, control. So maybe you can speak to that. When you're working with someone, how does control come up?
Well, as we spoke, control can be a tricky one because it's a tool in our toolbox that we're familiar with. It served us at some point in time. So the key is to understand if implementing that tool, being controlling in a given moment, is serving you, or is it a response mechanism to help you feel safe. So is it a tightening, a constricting, a becoming smaller, more rigid, or is it something that's helping you expand, be more open, more of who you are in a fuller sense? And I think controlling is like judgment, like a lot of things we were saying. So seeing it for what it is, but without adding more control, more judgment to the judging, really, creating a soft space for that perspective to say, hey, is this really helping? Is this expansive, or is this constricting and a reaction, a survivalistic impulse?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Just because there's something that isn't working for us, that is making our life more difficult, or something we view as behavior we don't want, it doesn't mean that that thing is wrong or bad, or that it's not useful sometimes. It may just be that, I think often this is the case, where we have this skill and we're overusing it.
Yeah, or it just boils down to this dimension of, is this helping me be more of who I am, or is this keeping me locked into an old pattern, being a rigid persona, character, playing a role, or is this really life-affirming, uplifting, moving me in a direction of being more of who I am?
I like that you mentioned openness and rigidity. That's, I think, a really good touchstone. I've been very aware of this, is the things that really just are rigid and go up against things and try to control and stop things. It's a kind of explosive position to take. And it can really be painful. I found a lot of pain can come from that.
Yeah. Could be sort of destructive because all this pressure is building up and the rigidity says, no, I've got to hold it together. Well, who says? And maybe the universe is really asking you to get off it, be more open, see another side of the equation. But I hesitate to paint things in black and white terms and say what's right and wrong. Maybe a given life path is about really understanding the whole control dimension. And this whole journey is about getting deep into control, doing control really well, and then having some kind of wake-up call at a later stage. So as you say, it's what feels right, what feels expansive, what feels, the healthier expression in the moment. I think that's all we have to go on.
And yeah, like I was saying, it's not that the control is wrong or bad. It's just that I think, at least for me, when you get to a place where you can see your awareness is expanded enough where you can see where it's not benefiting you and you
Hmm.
can choose something else.
Yeah, I
Um,
sometimes use the metaphor of a scared animal.
mhm,
And, if it's not ready, you try to pet that animal and it'll scratch your eyes out because it is
mhm,
just under threat. It's in reaction. It is trying to control and
mhm,
survive and, do what it thinks is best in the moment. But over
mhm,
time, maybe it takes a while. You put out some food, you get the message across that you're not a threat. You can start petting this animal. That animal can transform and change. Now, was it
mhm,
because you fed it and, petted it? No, it's something that just is happening within that
mhm.
animal, slowly feels safe enough to expand. Now, would you say, wow, that animal was really making some mistakes there. It was being controlling, and I was the safe person the whole time. That was a misunderstanding on the animal's behalf. No, the animal did exactly what it was programmed to do. And over time, it realized it could, read the situation differently, bring different behaviors to the party. And I just, I like that metaphor because it says, there's no wrong behavior. It's just over time we realize that we can expand and see things differently. And through that perspective, have a different exchange or a different experience.
Yeah, is the journey has different aspects to it in different stages,
Yeah.
and you're just at one stage or another. Um, it's easy to fall into that trap of, well, that person is more progressed than this person, and I'm more
Yeah.
progressed than them, and yeah, but it doesn't. What I think of is like just grades in school or kids. A 10-year-old isn't inherently superior to a 9-year-old. You know,
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
because they're in fifth grade instead of fourth grade. They're just in
Yeah.
fifth grade. Yeah.
I was speaking to a friend who's actually a teacher and
Mhm.
mentioning she had shared that she read an article that some instances of ADHD are tied to trauma. And she said, as a teacher, she can definitely identify certain students she has
Mhm.
as maybe being candidates for that assessment, that there's abuse happening or there's some kind of difficult challenge that child's facing. Now, could it be a combination of things? Sure. But her assessment is that there are instances where it's not ADHD. It is a child having difficulty staying in their body, staying present, processing their challenging reality.
Mhm.
So I just think different things can manifest in different ways. We cope the best we can in different situations, um, and different things come from that. Is that right or wrong? Are we doing a good job or a bad job? Is that C student actually an A student, but has all these, challenges at home? To use your analogy, it's
Mhm.
it's just tough to say. Tough to put all that into the hopper and come up with a decision that's worthy of um, applying judgment. I just think like here we are. This is what's happening. Can we be loving? Can we be caring? Can we embrace more fully what is here and find our path from that standpoint? Rather than it's got to be better, or you got to jump through this hoop, or you have to accomplish this task.
Absolutely. When I doing special ed teaching and I work with emotionally disturbed kids,
Mhm.
I didn't judge. I found that just sitting and holding space with
Yeah,
the student was 90% of the
yeah.
solution.
And that could be a huge breakthrough for them. Maybe the rest of their life, they have no one who welcomes them to just be present, to be who they are. Maybe they're just faced with demand after demand after demand to be something. And here you are saying, hey, you're good just as you are. Welcome. What's going on for you? Where are you at? What's happening?
Mhm.
And just that request to express what is real, what is happening for them. That could be hugely profound as a, a pivot point for them to shift.
Yeah, absolutely. And it has played out that way. Yeah.
Mm,
Very few, I think, probably not just kids, but adults have ever had somebody really hold sacred space for them,
mhm,
so it can be that first time can be really, really powerful for them. Yeah.
absolutely.
How do you distinguish between your intuition and your, whatever you want to call it, ego?
Yeah, or just the story or the advice.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's a super relevant question because when we talk about intuition, it is this process I described before of letting go, getting out of the way. What is coming through? What is that hit that is of more of a pure nature? It's not coming through some filter or some storyline that's familiar to me. I've worked with close friends and I know them as friends. We have friendship that plays out over a long period of time. I know their character. But when I'm in this space of holding intuition, a different input comes forward. So I've even been in a reading with one of these friends and said, "Hey, as your friend, this is what I want to say. You need to stand up, or you need to, tell that boss such and such." Not that I
Hmm.
would say those things, but that's the impulse, right? As a friend. Um, and yet, as I hold space, as I just, create this sacred container, this openness to what is highest and best, this is what's coming through. This is what's lighting up. So, even though that's my impulse as a person, as a friend, with the history, with the advice, this is actually what is highest and best. Very different. So I'm always kind of both amazed at that, reassured that this intuition stuff actually is working, that it's
Hmm.
coming from some other place because that's not consciously what I might have put forward. So yeah, I think once again it really comes back to fostering that sacred space and getting out of the way.
Yeah. And just allowing those thoughts to come through
The
kind of a different
impressions,
part of
that's
your, yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
exactly a different part of the equation.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what is that? That's maybe a whole nother conversation. Um,
Yeah.
what is
What
the
is that?
source of intuition? But
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Just I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to
Yeah.
hold sacred space, and just like you described with the special aid kids, just get out of the way, allow them to be who they are. What does
Hmm.
that foster in them? What does that encourage? It's really powerful.
I remember when I was younger, even at one point, before I meditated or did anything, it was my early 20s, maybe. And I thought, wait a second. I was just saying things. I was having a conversation, and I really started thinking about what am I saying? Wait a second. Where are these words coming from? And
Yeah.
then I realized, and I'd heard about channeling. And it's like, wait a second. Everything I've ever said is channeled. I don't know how I'm thinking of what to say
Mhm.
or my thoughts. Where are my thoughts coming from?
Yeah.
You
Are they
know,
even your thoughts? I mean, we could
yeah, they
go
don't
off the deep end.
really. Yeah, it's like I didn't decide, okay, now I'm going to think about, driving to the
Mhm.
store. Actually, pretty profound for me in my early 20s was everything I've ever thought is, I don't know where it's coming from, you know?
Yeah, and it can be liberating, to
Hmm.
go down that path and say, hey, I'm here, present in the moment, aware of occurrences, but I'm not all caught up in a story and a character and playing a role. So
Hmm.
I think there can be a real positive angle
Hmm.
to be held around that.
Yeah, it's just part of what's happening.
Yeah, and again, softening that engagement with what needs to be, and in general terms, holding more openness to just what is here, what is occurring, what's happening,
Mm.
being more receptive overall.
Maybe switching gears a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, if you had a powerful moment, maybe with a client where
Uh-huh.
there was something really transformative you saw happening.
Yeah. I think every client session, there's something that really stands out.
Mm.
Um, again, I'm really drawn to this work because of that exchange. To walk away going like, wow, I'll have a friend say, what are you up to? I'll say, oh, I just had a couple readings. And how'd it go? Awesome. Like it's always the same message. I never have a bad session because for me, it's this engagement. I got to hang out with spirit, both my spirit, holding, sacred witness to somebody else's spirit. All these beautiful things occurred. Great stuff came through. Um, but one instance that does come to mind that really struck me. So I mentioned I was a teacher for quite a while at the Academy of Intuition Medicine, and
Mhm.
we have, a series of classes, one of them having to do with, boundaries, really understanding that on a psychic or more personal level. And so part of the practice during meditation is to bring forward somebody you're wanting to clean things up with. It's not that they have to have any part of it. It's just you conjuring up in your mind's eye somebody that you'd like to have, say, better boundaries with, or just kind of clean up the slate. And so we're going through the meditation, and then we have a little break period. And this person comes back from the break, a student, white as a ghost. And the teacher at the time, the head teacher, asks, does anybody have anything to share about that exercise we just did? He raises his hand and says he hadn't spoken with his sister in over 3 years. They had a very difficult rapport. And he decided to put into practice this work, creating this boundary, creating sort of a healing engagement for himself, we'll say. And while he was on the break, his sister called out of the blue. And I thought, wait a minute, what are the odds that that would just be a natural occurrence? So, yeah, there can be moments in time where you're just engaging, you're just holding highest and best. In this instance, it had to do with boundaries and cleaning up energetic entanglements, right? But the outcome was really, you know, powerful, palpable, like totally evident. I forget what the exchange was about, but she picked up in the ethers that something was moving and shaking. And so it speaks to we are connected. There can be entanglements, and conversely, there can be pathways to really apply, sensitivity awarenesses to, move in the healthy healing direction and create positive change through this practice. Many
Mhm.
practices, but primarily through holding what's highest and best, creating a sacred space, bringing forward that more balanced expression.
I love that story.
Yeah,
Yeah, what are the odds of that?
yeah.
Very,
And I
very,
could
very.
just go on down the list. There's all kinds
Yeah.
of awesome healing stories where people just, get out of the way and things start shifting in really
Mhm.
dramatic terms.
You mentioned boundaries.
Yeah.
Whenever I can, I like to talk about this because there can be some confusion around what boundaries
Mhm.
are.
Yeah.
Um, if you have any thoughts on that.
When I start out with a client who maybe I haven't worked with before, and maybe they don't have a huge background in this language, we'll say, um,
Mhm.
I will emphasize a few things to start, just kind of, you know, get some basic orientation. One is grounding. So your connection with the earth, being more settled on this ground. Um, and that can be open to however you interpret it. Where is your opening for your association with this ground and grounding your energy, being settled or connected, you might say, to the earth? So that's one. The second is boundaries. And again, open to interpretation. What does it mean for you to have a sacred surrounding space wherein you can exit, people who are caught up or you're entangled with energetically, and say, please step outside of this field, because this field is my field. This is the realm of where I am tuning into what's highest and best for me energetically within my own space. So a boundary for me is just a delineation of where your space that really nurtures and fosters connection um, for yourself is held. And then the third thing
Hmm.
is the concept of an aura, this surrounding field of energy that once again really houses who you are. And that can be a concentration that's really helpful to filter out what has been held as interference or dissonance, things that have gotten in the way of that clear signal, you might say, for yourself. So, boundary for me is one of the main tools that I employ and
Okay.
encourage and support others to be connected
Mm.
with.
Excellent. I like that answer. You can speak to, is there a misconception about healing, about the
Mhm.
healing process? Anything maybe we haven't talked about that you feel like something that people could benefit from?
For me, it's just a product of my own journey, starting out feeling a certain way and then just over time coming to a different realization. So it may resonate with others, may not. But for me, one of the misconceptions I've really come forward with is that we're not on some journey from brokenness to
Hmm.
finding some place of healing. Um, it's really a process of letting go and letting go in particular to what has been in the way. So we talked earlier about the efforting and the feeling we need to be certain something or fulfill a
Hmm.
role or be beholden to some family identity or religious, doctrine. Those things can be fine, but when they infringe upon our expression of wholeness, of our full character, then
Hmm.
they're a real detriment. They're standing in the way of our authentic expression in the world. So I think the misconception again is just seeing yourself as already whole, carrying that idea that on a core level you are that innocent childlike expression, and can you foster and connect with that? Can you you know, support that character coming back into form rather than trying to build something onto it. It's maybe like a metaphor of a crumpled up piece of paper. It can be smoothed out, but nothing needs to be added. There's nothing wrong. It's just smoothing out those wrinkles, um, releasing old wounds, old charges, old points of interference, but it's not adding net new anything to the mix. So I like that uh, as being kind of a big part, again, of my practice as a misconception, letting go of the idea of being broken and needing something that needs to be fixed.
Excellent. So it's more of a subtracting than a adding something.
Yeah. Or it could
Mm.
be, given the individual, it could be a story, as we said, of self love, really understanding what that's about, deep level of self acceptance because you've never felt that, realizing you're worthy because you weren't, previously supported in understanding that notion. So it can have sort of a different flavor for different people. But I think ultimately it comes back to just appreciating the essence of who we are is already whole.
Hmm. Excellent. Yeah. So I'm just going to wrap up with one last question here.
Mhm.
If you could offer just one message or practice to listeners seeking alignment and clarity, what would it be? And I realize you just did something similar, but is there anything you can
Totally.
add to that?
Yeah, yeah, good point. That it'll be an echo, but I like to say keep it simple.
Mhm.
Though it's not easy, simple but not easy. It is about a simplistic approach or a simplistic practice, honoring yourself and your experience that's here. You're not supposed to be better than experiencing something else, a more improved version of yourself. If that's meant to come, that will take shape over time, but just really attuning to the deepest, truest part of yourself, allowing that to be kind of the source of your healing. Um, being attuned in this way for me is the core principle, um, that we're not trying to get somewhere. We're allowing ourselves to be who we are. So, shine bright, share your light with the world. But that's a practice of really appreciating what is here rather than feeling like you need to get somewhere. So that's my big main message.
Mm, fantastic. I guess that's the self-love, right?
Yes, exactly. Here we are, all these years later. I'm like, okay, well, maybe it wasn't that I was hearing it the right way. Who knows? But
Mhm.
yes, absolutely. All these years later, that's how it's sort of been made manifest in a way I could digest and process it. Um, is that deep level of acceptance of what is here, and not trying to, match up, win approval, be more than. That's kind of exercise, like you had mentioned, being on the hamster wheel, chasing the tail around the tree.
Mhm.
It's not actually supportive of the end goal of being present in a fuller way. So
Fantastic. So,
cool.
all right, Dominic, thank you so much
Yeah.
for being on the show today.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay. Take care. All.
All right. Take care.
Bye.